on this week's Happy Hour. From Superscript Comics and Games, Elliott Frank. And of course, me, the Happy Hour regular, Jocelyn. And now, from All Saints Public House in Cleveland, it's Happy Hour with Steve Guy.
Welcome to another episode of Happy Hour with Steve Guy. I obviously am Steve Guy. Maybe that's not obvious, but I am Steve Guy and appreciate you swinging by. Once again, we have an awesome show for you. Our guest this week from Superscript Comics and Games is Elliott Frank. He is one of three owners from there, so we talk a little bit comics, but even more so, the interesting conversation piece with him is that he opened during this pandemic as it's happening. So I thought that was very interesting. Awesome chat there, and more fun, of course. But as always, I'm initially joined by our Happy Hour regular Jocelyn. Hi, welcome back.
Hey, Steve.
Oh, I didn't get you a drink yet. What do you want? Something to drink?
To kill me.
I would love to kill you. Some days. There are plenty of days where I would love to kill you, Jocelyn.
I'm glad you're able to resist.
Yeah.
A lot of willpower there.
You know what? More than you would think, okay? How was your week? What's going on?
It's great. Saw the Browns one yesterday. Anyway.
The Browns are now 3-1. They're right up there with your Pittsburgh Steelers.
No, I wore my Steelers jacket to a bar yesterday and I got booed on my way in and out.
You deserve it. Absolutely 100% deserve getting booed. And yeah, Browns are doing great. Speaking of Cleveland doing great, I know that you love music. Speaking of Cleveland and awesome things that I know you love about it, you're a fan of music. MGK new album debuted at #1.
Shut up.
Swear, on Billboard. The first Cleveland artist to ever debut at #1 on Billboard.
I didn't even know people listen to MGK.
I listen to MGK.
That says a lot about you.
Well, I mean,
you're a Cleveland person.
He's a Cleveland dude. Of course I'm going to listen to. I went to WrestleMania in Miami years ago, and The Rock is wrestling John Cena as the main event of the whole thing, right?
Did you see him?
From very far, yes. So, but the whole thing was The Rock was coming out with Flo Rida. Flo Rida like rapped, and then The Rock came out to the ring. John Cena, the whole thing leading up, picked an MGK song for like all his video promos. And so then at WrestleMania, MGK performed live and then brought John Cena out. And of course, I was the only person out of like 80,000 people at the time that really knew who MGK was because he's a Cleveland boy. And I was like, yeah, going all the way as like high up as you could be. And I'm just standing up. And he wore a Cleveland shirt too. I was so pumped. I was like, yes, Cleveland.
Isn't he doing rock music now?
Yeah, so like this album's not straight rap. It's like rock, rap kind of deal sort of thing. Whatever. And he's got a coffee shop that he's opened up in Cleveland. You didn't know this. West 9th Street.
Oh.
At the Archer building.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I guess technically he sits on West 10th on the other side, like in the flats there.
Yeah.
That coffee shop that opened up is MGK's.
So where the old East End is?
No.
Oh, I'm thinking. Okay.
Right across.
Oh, no, you're right. I know where that is. I drove past.
It's in the Archer
I was wondering
building.
what was going on there.
It's like 27 Club.
Yeah. Oh, yep. I drove past and I saw people hanging out. I was like, what's going on?
Yeah, him and Megan Fox were out there hanging out. Say what you want about MGK, but his dating history is pretty fantastic.
He's winning.
I mean, I'm jealous. You know what I mean?
He's had a lot of baddies.
Yeah, he does well for himself.
He does.
Financially and everything. We need to get a song about. Do you ever think about this? Is there a song named Jocelyn or anything? Like there are a lot of songs with women's names, right?
There is like 2 songs with Jocelyn in them.
It's in it.
Well, as a song title.
Really?
Yeah, one is about a girl committing suicide.
Well, that's not a good one.
That's pretty sad, pretty dark. And the other one is about this girl Jocelyn stealing some other girl's man.
That's on. That's pretty on point.
It's kind of on par.
I was thinking about because I'm like, wait a minute. You have like Valerie, Eleanor Rigby. These are all women's names. Like Jocelyn's not one, but it's a unique enough name that you could have a song off of it. A song about
I'm a unique girl.
Who does the song about stealing someone's man?
Some singer, some pop singer. I can't remember what her name is.
I
gotta look it up.
I gotta find this song. I gotta find that. That's awesome. Also, this week, what about we gotta talk about this Donald Trump having COVID thing. as awesome as MGK made Cleveland look, man, leave it to the president of the United States to make Cleveland look terrible. Have debates here, and then the whole Cleveland Clinic getting in trouble because everybody's sick, and like, even though it wasn't them, it seems to be from this Supreme Court justice nomination.
Oh, that Rose Garden party.
Shindig at the Rose Garden. But have you seen this? Did you see this little parade outside of Walter Reed?
Just letting you guys know I'm still alive.
Yeah, just driving by, waving, hey everybody. Like, what?
Kim Jong-un would never. He'll just disappear for months.
That's true. But like, dude, you're getting your Secret Service. Those guys are there to protect your life, and now you are endangering
I hope
theirs.
they all got raises.
Yeah, they better get hazard pay. Do you think that they have hazard pay already because they're Secret Service for Donald Trump?
Probably not.
I think the people most dangerous to Donald Trump, or the people most likely to kill a president, are on Donald Trump's side. You know what I mean? So he might actually be the
He
safest.
bought them all off already.
Yeah, he might be the safest president in the history of the United States.
I honestly think he is. People go so hard for Trump.
Yeah, all the crazies are on his side.
Yeah.
So like,
That's all you need.
yeah, instead of shooting him, they're just like, "Who you want me to kill?" And they're just all, I don't want
I
to
saw
say.
from that little rally someone recording, if you want to go through Donald Trump, you got to go through me first. And I'm like, okay, way to stand up for your president. Mischance in the military.
What about yeah? How about go overseas, pal, and stand up for all of us,
Right.
not just one, whatever, bunch of maniacs. My goodness, I mean that's pretty much what's going on. Anything you want?
You know I'm a boring girl.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Fine. Well,
Just starts in a hangover again.
yeah, it's not surprising.
Yeah.
All right, before we get into this week's conversation, I'm going to talk to you guys about something that's happening right here at All Saints Public House in Cleveland. On October 17th, they are having a clam bake, and the whole thing is centered around charity and feeding the local community come this Thanksgiving holiday. If you buy tickets to the clam bake here at All Saints, a portion of all the tickets that you buy are going to go towards buying a turkey dinner with all the fixings and sides for free for people in the community that aren't as fortunate as the rest of us. So for more information and to get your tickets, swing by All Saints Public House right here, or give them a phone call and see what you can do to help out. All right, swinging by Happy Hour this week. He is one of three owners of Superscript Comics and Games. Elliott Frank, welcome to Happy Hour, man.
Glad to be here, man.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. We will talk comic books and board games and things. But first, I got to know, what's your happy hour drink of choice?
Gin and tonic for me. Pretty straightforward.
That's easy enough. That's a simple kind of guy. I feel like gin and tonic, easy. Go, you're more like a beer guy, and then you just go to classics, or what?
Yeah, I don't know. I guess I'm more of a beer guy. And like, it was bad, shitty beer for the first, 10 years I was able to drink, and I don't think it was till like I met my wife that I was like, oh, there's, like other drinks, and
You're like, oh, I can expand my horizons a little bit here. So, your wife, since you brought her up,
yeah,
she's one of the three owners.
she is.
This is pretty awesome. So, for those who don't know, Superscript is in Lakewood. You're on Detroit Road.
Madison.
It's only two
I mean,
real
yeah,
ones.
you
that
had a
know what I
50%
mean?
chance of getting it.
Yeah, and I blew it. But you're on Madison, and you own it along with a longtime friend.
Yeah.
And your wife. Mm-hmm. How does this whole thing even come together?
Yeah, so it was like a far more like natural and like long-seated progression than I think it felt like towards when we were gearing up to get open. But so Nick Kratzis, our other partner, and I have been friends since we were like 5 years old. So we grew up down the street from each other, went to school together, played in bands together, and pretty much have done everything together our whole life. So it's like usually if one of us was getting into something, the other person was like right behind, being like,
"That's cool.
What can I do?"
Yeah,
you know, like obviously I'm included, right? Since you're doing something. And also like by nature that like, you know, our interests have always kind of overlapped, and Nick and I grew up being nerds, playing Dungeons and Dragons and reading comics and all that kind of stuff. So when Christine and I got married, and Christine has a lot of overlapping interests in the same areas, and it was always just one of those things we kind of talked about. It's like, yeah, it'd be fun to do. It'd be cool to do. Like we all, like Nick and I both grew up with these really fond memories of hanging out in comic shops, and that was like, you know, that was our bar for like the most part for a pretty long time. You know, that was where you went, and you hung out, and that's where your community was, and people who shared your interests. So it was just this, wow, if we opened a shop, I'd do it like this, and that would come up in conversations for, you know, like the course of a decade.
Sure.
Christine and I moved to Lakewood, and conversations, you know, kept coming up, and it was just odd because Lakewood's like the only inner-ring suburb in greater Cleveland area that doesn't have a comic or game shop.
Yeah, and it's so walkable.
Yeah, totally. It's like it's kind of perfect for it. For kind of an area that already has a lot of those, it's just weird that there was this like gap there.
Right.
And so that further fueled the conversation, as being like, well, we could do that. It would be cool to do it here because there's nothing like that here. And then I went through like a bit of a career change. So I had been teaching high school English, and then kind of fell accidentally backwards into doing like corporate training out of that. And was in between jobs for like a minute, and just like one of those, I had like fallen backwards into this career path that like was not necessarily of my choosing. It's not a bad gig if you can get it by any stretch of the imagination, but like, you know, it was the first time Christine and I had real talks about so what do you want to do, man? And me being like, well, I think I want to do the comic book shop thing that we like absent-mindedly talk about all the time.
Did you think she was going to totally shoot it down?
Totally. And it was almost like a dare, like, you know, just like, yeah, tell me this is a bad idea. And I mean, quite the opposite. Like, she was like really the driving force during that. So,
that's awesome.
So Christine and I started talking about it for real, and pretty quickly there, like every time I would be like, but it's not really gonna happen, right? She'd be like, no, we're doing it. Like, you know, this is this real thing, and we're putting together financial projections and looking into funding sources and like, you know, doing all this stuff, and you know, putting together like PowerPoint decks for, you know, potential investors and just all this stuff. And at some point it just became like evident, as like, well, if we're gonna do this, Nick has to be involved.
For sure. Involved in everything else, right? Yeah.
And so I went to Nick and was like, hey, that thing we always talk about, you want to do this with us? And expecting Nick would be like, of course. And Nick was like, I gotta think about it. And then like, and took a, I don't know, it was like a month, I think. I just didn't bring it up. And Nick ended up coming back and being like, yeah, like I want to do it, because I can't like imagine a world where you and Christine do this and I'm like not.
He's not a
part of it. Like, you know, like it would just happen no matter what. So
the only person in the world is like, I can't imagine not being a third wheel.
And I mean, you know, the three of us spend so much time together anyways that it's like, you know, I mean, like Nick pretty much came with the package when Christine and I got married. So they became pretty fast friends, and we have like a really good working relationship. And yeah, so it became this thing where we were like, okay, we're going to plug away at this, and it'll take us a couple of years to get ready. And then it happened much, much faster than we thought. And within a year, we had our funding, and we were ready to go and pulled the trigger.
You did pull the trigger, but not as quickly as you wanted to.
No.
You know, this is one of the interesting things of having you here, is we talk to people like Kathy Blackman of the Grog Shop, and how the pandemic has impacted that business. But you tried to launch a business, and then did launch a business in the midst of a pandemic.
Yeah.
What the hell is that like, man?
So if you had the option to open a business in a pandemic or not in a pandemic, what? I would not advise doing so. Like, yeah, I mean, trying is, yeah, like the understatement of the century. So like, yeah, I mean, like with Kathy, you know, like she has this like established thing that's been around forever, and like, you know, I imagine that, you know, there's not much like choice. Like if you're the garage shop, like you're an institution, like you
Right,
have
you're
to
the
find
garage
a way
shop.
to
You gotta
keep
be
this
there,
going.
yeah.
We found ourselves in a weird situation of we had signed a lease, like we'd signed a lease for a significant term after like a year of hunting for the right spot. We had already dumped tons of money into renovations. Like the inside of the shop already looked like what it was supposed to look like. We had all these vendor relationships that we had established. So we were like ready to go.
Yeah.
And then like, I mean, that week or 2 week period of like when it seemed like it's like, yeah, this is maybe something we should worry about, to like, people, like South by Southwest got canceled. How crazy. Like that was the craziest thing in the world, I feel like, when it happened.
Yeah.
But it still didn't seem like this clearly will not like affect anything I'm doing or whatever. It'll be a weird year where no one goes to conventions or trade shows and whatever. And then within, it seemed like, a matter of days.
Instantly,
Yeah. So, oddly enough, I had, so we were going to open on March 1st. Like I said, the shop's all ready to go. It's the beginning of February. And I walk into my, like, very good job at the time. Like, and put in my
Oh no.
month's notice. I gave them like a month because my team was really good. My boss and my boss's boss were great people. And 2 days later, shit hits the fan, and then like 3 days later, everybody's working from home. And at that point, every day is like, we'll probably, like, who knew how long any of this was going to last?
Yeah.
And it was like, we'll probably still be able, maybe it'll push us back a month. Whatever.
Okay, yeah.
And then pretty quickly, like within a week, is like, that's not going to happen. And I'd given the spiel to my boss about like, look, this is my dream, and this is a great job I have here, but like this is really what I want to do, and like it's a risk I'm going to take. And she'd been super supportive, and it was really cool. And then a week later, called her and was like, hey, would it be all right if I like stayed on a little while longer? And thank God she said yes, so I was able to like stay employed during all of that.
Sure.
So through the duration of the pandemic, all of us were still working our day jobs, and clocking out of two of us. Christine and I both were working from home, and Nick was still on site for their job at the time. So we're clocking out of our day jobs, driving up to the shop, and just building stuff or like receiving inventory, which was like arriving and like just slapdash, like like shipping and receiving was so screwed up. And just trying to kind of figure out what we were going to do, and also doing all the things everybody's doing, like trying to figure out if we can get our landlord to like help us out with the rent and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, just like a lot of unknowns, and this thing that we had planned for so long, and this this huge risk that we had sank everything into, and just being like, oh my god, it might not actually happen, because as the days went by, it just became harder and harder to be like, you have a clear picture of something in your head, like,
and then that's not
in the lead up to it, and then like month into the pandemic, it was like we were still working there every day, and pulling like 80-hour weeks between our day jobs and getting the shop ready.
Yeah.
But getting into this place where it was like I couldn't actually see it anymore. Like I couldn't imagine working there. And it was kind of Christine who at some point was just like, we gotta move. Like we gotta get this thing done and just open and do everything we can for like social distancing and safety, and make like we had always planned to get a web store up, but it was going to be like over the course of the first year we'll work on getting our online sales going. Nick buckled down and like got our entire online selling apparatus down in like 2 weeks.
That's awesome.
Him and a couple of close friends managed to like kickstart that whole thing, and like Christine and I just kind of focused on making sure we could get all the administrative stuff in place, and anything that T that need to be crossed or I that need to be dotted done, and we ended up getting open in the middle of summer, and yeah, I mean, it was wild. I kind of can't believe it worked.
So you guys have been open for a couple months now. Let's talk about the comics themselves. Your comics, your board games. Then you guys do so many cool things. You got different events there. You have a subscription service that people can sign up for, where you pull their favorite comics monthly and they can come pick it up. Talk a little bit about those things, and you have an event coming up at the end of October, right?
Yeah. So at the end of the October, we have like a big Halloween raffle. So the last week of October, all the way up through Halloween the 31st, any money you spend in the store, if you spend $20 or more, for every $20 you spend in the store, you get a raffle ticket. We're going to do a live stream on Halloween where we pull tickets from that, and we're going to give away a couple $1,000s worth of like prizes and like good stuff, not
Very
like
cool.
just like Max but yeah, so that's like the big thing we have on the horizon. We also have the first inaugural Superscript Comic Book Club that we're doing both in person and remotely, which you can sign up for in the store. This month, the book is DC's Young Animals Eternity Girl, which is really good, kind of like indie part of DC Comics, the Young Animals like line. So if you're interested in that, like that's definitely something to sign up for. The subscription service thing is, I'm sure to like anybody watching who's, you know, familiar with comic book shops, like having a pull list is pretty commonplace. But you come in and you say, hey, you know, I read Batman every month, make sure I have Batman waiting for me. We do that, you know, where if you give us a list of titles that come out monthly that you want to follow, we do curbside pickup, we'll mail them, or you can come in the store as normal and get your monthly books, and we'll make sure they're always there for you. The other thing we do is we do like to like curate those. So if someone's like, hey, I'm looking into getting into monthly comics or whatever, but I don't necessarily know where to read, like we will provide some consultation on like, here's like a good base books to start.
That's
you know,
really
like,
cool.
That's like the best part of the job, honestly, is like recommending stuff. But,
All right. Well, then, on that note, as I let you go here, what if I'm brand new to comics and I walk into the store? What are you starting me out with?
Okay, that's a good question. So, what's your favorite book or movie?
My favorite movie is Anchorman, but
Okay, that counts. I think at that point, so like you're a guy who prefers comedies, like same thing, like when it comes to reading?
But I mean, I like the action stuff. You know,
Okay.
I mean, I like it.
Fair enough. Like action, if you were going to action stuff, I would say like any of the Ed Brubaker books that are coming out right now.
Okay.
Are pretty good because he writes like kind of a lot of pulpy stuff, and maybe even like, let's see, like there's a new book on Boom called Heavy that's pretty good, which is about like a time traveling assassin that is both like laugh out loud funny and also like has some like pretty good action stuff.
All right.
But as far as comedy stuff is concerned, man, that's always trickier because like American comics or Western comics tend to skew pretty hard towards like drama. But yeah, like hard to go wrong with either like Nick Spencer's current run on Spider-Man or man. So I love it, and I say this with like in the best way possible, but there's a book currently coming out called Dark Knight's Death Metal.
Okay.
Which are just called Death Metal, which is a alternate version of the DC universe where it's like post-apocalyptic and, you know, Batman's driving around like a Mad Max car. It's like the dumbest book I've ever read in my life, in the best possible way. Like in this like knowing like this is all over the top and hilarious.
That's what Anchorman is.
Yeah.
Perfect. Elliott Frank, tell everybody where they can check out Superscript if they want to get more information online.
Yeah.
Social media.
Yeah, you can check us out on we're Superscript Ohio on Twitter and Facebook and Instagram and everything. So at Superscript Ohio, and our website is superscriptohio.com. Check us out there.
And visit on Madison Avenue in Lakewood, Ohio. Thanks so much for swinging by Happy Hour, man.
Yeah. Happy to be here, man.
All right, hey, thanks so much to Elliott Frank for swinging by Happy Hour and having that conversation. Again, listen, we do things a little different now. So if you have ever listened to our podcast, and sometimes you're like, the Happy Hour Steve Guy podcast, I get a little bit more conversation, but it's not too different than what I watched on the show. Check it out. Now it is different because we basically have two different conversations. So what you heard here or watched here is going to be different if you listen to the podcast. So look, if you really like comic books, we go more in depth about that stuff there. And we talk about the band that Elliott is a part of, Harvey Picar. So an awesome conversation there. Check that out. And of course, thanks to everybody else who took part of the show today and helped us throw this whole thing together. Thanks to All Saints Public House right here in Cleveland for having us here yet again. And now we've come to the portion of the show called Here's to You, where we raise our glasses and just say cheers to someone that did something positive and awesome in everyday life, or maybe it's somebody famous. Whatever the case may be, if they did something great and we want to give them a little bit more note, we say here's to you. This week's recipient of Here's to You, which, by the way, don't forget you can nominate somebody by emailing happyhoursteveguy@gmail.com. But this week we go to Waterbury, Connecticut, where an 18-year-old named Justin Gavin got off of a bus and a vehicle was on fire. He ran to the vehicle, pulled out a woman and her 3 children, and saved all of their lives. At 18 years old. I mean, I know what I was doing at 18 years old. It wasn't pulling people out on fire. So, Justin, look, man, if you want to do this cheers, if somehow you're seeing this in Connecticut, grab your sparkling grape juice because you're underage. But the rest of us, man, we raise our glasses and say, here's to you. You ever pull somebody out for a fire?
Not a literal one, no.
You know what that means?
Grand Theft Auto?
Oh, yeah, that's cool. You know what we got for it?
What?
They gave him a challenge coin.
What is that?
I don't know. It's not anything. A challenge coin.
Is that made up?
Yeah, it's made up by the sheriff there, or whatever. The chief of police, I'm sorry. Challenge coin. Saved 4 people from a fire. Get this kid a scholarship to whatever college he wants to go to.
Is it at least a real gold coin? Like, could he pawned it for something?
I have no idea. You know what's really shitty about this? Listen, we just gave this kid kudos, but it's 2020. You know that there is some dumb bitch Karen online right now who thinks they're over woke, and she's like, oh, really? He saved 4 people, so we're just gonna make this kid a hero now? He's 18, he's an adult. I bet you he fucked up at some point in his life, and they're going back on his Twitter, and poor 13-year-old Justin quoted a rap song and probably, put a word in there that he shouldn't, or said something stupid somewhere, and they're like, he's a shitty person. When he was 12, he said this, and he's the exact same person that he was at 18 that he was at 12. Like, I hope that's not happening. If you're that person, fuck out of here. You know what I'm saying? Anyway, that's going to do it here for Happy Hour with Steve Guy. I had to get that off my chest. I hope Justin does. It's not every day that we honor an 18-year-old. So the point there is, don't ruin the youth of America by not letting them grow. Right? Yeah. Let them grow. You heard it here first. You heard it here first. Steve Guy, Jocelyn Ball, 2020. Write us in. Thanks so much for swinging by. We'll talk to you next week right here on Happy Hour with Steve Guy.